Are you tired of quick fixes that promise transformation but leave you feeling more disconnected from your body than ever? Welcome to Beyond Medicine, humanized care for women of influence, where we go deeper than surface level solutions. I'm Dr. Maria, a functional integrative physician specializing in women's health, metabolic dysfunction, and hormone balance. Here, we will uncover the root causes of insulin resistance, PCOS, thyroid, and adrenal issues, and explore how trauma, stress, and anxiety impact your well being. Because your body deserves personalized, compassionate care that honors its complexity. Let's embark on a journey to reclaim your health one conversation at a time. And today I have with me Dr. Mansani, if I pronounce that correctly. And we will be discussing and talking about movement and fitness throughout a woman's life cycle. So, welcome to the chat. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do from that professional side, but also from the personal side, and maybe an interesting fact so that people can start to know who you are and who is this lady that is talking to us today about fitness.
Hi, Dr. Maria. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm excited to be here. I'm Dr. Suzanne Manzi. I'm the owner of Performance Pain and Sports Medicine in Houston, Texas. I'm a quadruple board certified physician. I specialize in physical medicine and rehabilitation, pain management, electrodiagnostic medicine, and I also took a liking to obesity medicine. In my practice, I really have a passion about healing people. So I really focus on regenerative and functional medicine as well. I'm also involved in some medical legal work. And today, I'm excited to tackle one of the biggest misconceptions in women's health. I know we all get busy. We're busy females trying to tie all ends together and make ends meet and do our best because we have to play so many different roles between work, family, everything in between. Most people don't think they have time. And so today I really want to break down how movement evolves through a women's life cycle and how we can incorporate specialized movement to fit into the busy lifestyle that we all have. I have an extremely busy lifestyle where I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have my own practice. I have a few side gigs, and I would say one fun fact is I have a travel agency, and I love to travel so I can decompress and enjoy the world and seeing sights and allow my children to really understand culture and be overall well-rounded. So thank you again for having me here.
Yes, welcome. And I love that you mentioned that you have a travel agency and that you love to travel. When we think about the topic about fitness, movement, strength, flexibility, being strong, if you want to be a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old that is able to travel and enjoy seeing the world, the reality is you need to be fit. And that will take some time and some effort. So thank you for sharing that because I think that ties really well. So let's start to dive into this a little bit more. So when you think about fitness, movement, I like to say strong, right? Because women, we can be strong and we should be strong. Why is it that this is important for women's health, for all the ladies throughout their entire life cycle?
Absolutely. So many women think exercise just means endless cardio. And I really believe resistance training is the key to longevity, pain prevention, and overall wellness. So when I say resistance training, some people are thinking, lift weights, I don't want to get big, I don't want to get bulky, but that's not what regular weightlifting is all about. So today I want to break down why strength training is the best kept secret for women's health at every stage of life. Movement benefits overall health, supporting cardiovascular health, mental health, metabolic function. It regulates insulin sensitivity, prevents type 2 diabetes, improves circulation, your lymphatic drainage, reduces inflammation, and really promotes healing. But we have issues that we face as women at very different stages in our lives. So usually in like the 20s to 30s, those are the peak muscle building years. But most people don't take advantage. They're just focused on, oh, I need to look good in my bathing suit. Let me just go for another run and keep running and, cardio instead of strength training. And then also when we get into our 20s and 30s, we transition from college into office job. And these sedentary jobs lead to significant postural imbalances and actually early joint pain. It's amazing how many women I see in my practice that are early 30s, even late 20s, and they come in for back pain. I'm like, back pain. And they have these MRIs and they're normal because their muscles are imbalanced. Then we can progress into the 40s and the 50s, and that's when perimenopause sets in. It's never fun to go through perimenopause, and this is where it can cause muscle loss and slow metabolism. So strength training really helps to counteract those hormonal shifts. This is when we start having our progesterone and our estrogen decline over time. Weight training reduces that stress-induced cortisol spikes that we face every day with whether it be screaming toddlers that wake us up in the middle of the night or that alarm clock that goes off every morning at 5:36 a.m. and the rat race begins. Strength training really helps to counteract that. The cortisol spikes lead to weight gain. And so if we can help reduce those by weight training, we can potentially maintain a healthier weight. And then you shift into the 60-year-old phase where that's the acceleration of muscle loss. And we have increase in falls and fractures after the age of 60. And this is where it's crucial for maintaining bone density because nobody wants to fall and break their hip and be diagnosed with osteoporosis. So strength training, that resistance of the muscles acting on the bone with resistance training creates healthier, stronger bone. And so that means maintaining strength, maintaining independence, and maintaining your quality of life as we advance into older age.
Yes. And I think that is important to mention for a lot of women. There is a fear of I'm going to bulk up and look masculine, which that is not the case whatsoever. I also want to mention that strength training, lifting of the weight is also very important for that mitochondria health. So when you're strength training, it doesn't mean that your heart is not working because you can lift weights in a way that you're still doing a HIIT, right? So high intensity
Absolutely.
interval training, or that you're doing a sit that is also an interval training that will elevate that heart rate and that will give your heart the exercise that it needs as a muscle to keep it healthy. So sometimes we think that we have to do one or the other, but that's not true. There are ways, if you work with the right profession, that you can still do this and have all the benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you mentioned a couple of like benefits that it has. So preventing diseases as well as helping us regulate our hormones. And women always think hormones, estrogen, progesterone, but you mentioned a couple of them that are also important. So the cortisol, insulin balance, right? It reduces the insulin resistance that we will all develop as estrogen declines because that's normal. That's part of that process, that physiological process. So, besides the fact that it will help prevent certain diseases, helps balance our hormones, and again, will prevent injuries. Talk to us about a little bit in terms of the effect, specifically in the area of sarcopenia. So, sarcopenia is the same thing that happens with the bones in terms of like bones is called osteoporosis, sarcopenia for like muscle. And so talk to us a little bit about how that happens and why is it that women really want to start to think about this like in their mid 30s to 40s, not when they're like already 60s, 70s, and then they need the cane to walk.
Sure. Let me debunk that myth that lifting weights makes women bulky. It takes extreme weightlifting and an extreme diet to build large muscles. Now, it's funny because I have a lot of girlfriends that say, I have to go do my Pilates. I need to make my muscles longer. Okay, that's great. But you're born with what muscles you have. You can't make your muscles longer. You're genetically given muscles. And that's what you're stuck with. And sure, Pilates is great and you're getting some resistance, but you're not doing any kind of progressive overloading to those muscles. And so it's not truly lifting weights, but yes, you are getting some resistance, but you're not going to get large muscles if you lift weights. You're increasing your muscle mass and your metabolism, which again is a myth. People go for a run and they burn 150 calories. But as soon as you're done running, those 150 calories are burned and that's it. And then you go and have a smoothie that's 350 calories. And now you've just gone into a calorie excess. So you're not going to lose any weight by doing cardio. Whereas when you're lifting, you're increasing your muscle mass and your metabolism at the same time. More muscle mass means more calories burned at rest, which a lot of women don't understand. And it's important to know that because everybody's always trying to lose weight and trying to fit in their clothes and look good. And the best bang for your buck is lifting because you're burning calories at rest after you lift. The key with strengthening the muscles, especially as we age, is supporting the joints. So as you age, you have that loss of muscle mass known as penia causes people to get their hips replaced, their knees replaced, because the muscles aren't strong enough to support the joints. Think of a skeleton hanging on a stick that you see in a doctor's office or at a museum or something. If you just unhooked that, it would fall to the ground. There's no muscle supporting it. But we can walk around because we have muscles moving those joints. And so in order for the joints to function normally, we have to have muscle strength. If you want those joints to function normally and optimally for a long time, we have to have muscle strength to support the joint. So the bone isn't on bone, and we want to preserve our cartilage. And that actually requires resistance strength training. Enhancing that mobility and posture is also important throughout your lifetime because these muscle imbalances with prolonged sitting can really cause problems in the future. All this research has been done, and my patients are always saying, can't you just help me with my joint pain? I'm like, have you exercised? Physical therapy is the first line of treatment for most pain-related joint problems. Why is that? Because literature and research shows.
That's okay. So you were talking about the importance of exercising to preserve like joints and especially to reduce like that pain and aches that we get with our joints, especially as we age. And I want to mention, and you can go back to this point if you want. Yes, for women, they're always thinking about the weight loss and how to stay thin. But when you are also thinking about sarcopenia and muscle, conserving your muscles, you want to think again, how do you want to age? What do you want to do when you're 50, 60, 70? Do you want to be a functional person? And what I mean by that is play with your grandkids and being able to sit down in the floor and get up from the floor. Do you want to be able to take them to Disney World and have again a body that allows you to do those things? So for women, it's important that we start to shift that mentality from what keeps us thin to what will also keep us functional throughout our life stages. Anything that you want to add there?
And I also want to add some of the hormonal benefits being where not only the insulin and the cortisol regulation. One more point about cortisol. It's a stress hormone. High cortisol promotes fat storage, especially around the abdomen. Also, estrogen dominance contributes to that stubborn fat storage in your abdomen. And that's usually women's biggest complaint as they age. I can't get rid of this little belly fat that I have. So when you lift, you have this increased testosterone and growth hormone. Now, it's not excessive, but it's increased in a healthy way, which support the fat burning and the lean muscle growth, which balance that estrogen dominance and reduce the cortisol in the stress hormone levels. And so I just like to think of my body as like a chemical reaction. How can I balance it? I feel like we give our bodies, our cars, premium gasoline, but we don't give our bodies the high level service that we give to everything else. We only get one body. Why aren't we feeding it with nutrients and high-level protein. In order to build excessive muscle and act like a bodybuilder, you're going to have to increase that protein intake significantly. But if you're just a normal female and you're trying to maintain your lean muscle, you need to eat the appropriate amount of protein. I try to eat almost a 1-to-1 with my weight because I do lift weights every day and I want to keep my muscle and I like to be strong and lean. And so I love the way it makes me feel. So I have to feed it the proper amount of protein to maintain that.
Yes. And I think that's also important. Sometimes I see that women are doing one or the other, or that the quality of the protein that they're consuming is like all of these protein supplements, which is not, it's not the same. So a balance between the fitness in terms of the weights that I'm lifting and how I'm training, and then the way that I'm nourishing my body, and not only amount in terms of gram, but quality is extremely important, ladies. I think that sometimes that also is an area where seeking professional help and guidance can be very important because there's a lot of noise in the social media world and on Google and from wellness professionals that it's not that all is bad, but some of it can be confusing. And then most of all, some of it, it's not personalized to you, which working with somebody that can personalize it to you will also make a big difference. So I know that you mentioned time being an obstacle. I also find that something that can sometimes become an obstacle is if you are just doing this on yourself and at home with what you have. So, as when we're lifting weight, then we want to continue to preserve that muscle mass and continue to stay strong. We've reached like this threshold, and then we need to challenge the muscle a little bit more and challenge it a little bit more and challenge it a little bit more. And that can look like changing your workout because of the muscle memory. And that can also look like, for example, you were doing 5 pounds for bicep curls, and now you're going to start to do 10 for bicep curls, even if at first it takes you a little bit more of effort. So I find that sometimes this, I'm going to do it alone, I don't need help, or I don't go to a gym, can be an obstacle if you want to continue to challenge your body. So besides the time and then the mindset of I can do this alone, are there any other obstacles or myths that you feel that women need to conquer in their minds?
I feel like one of the biggest obstacles is starting. And so there's easy ways to just start. You can just start with body weight. Your body weighs something, so you're resisting against gravity. And then you can start adding bands to that. So even if you start with just body weight exercises, squats, lunges, push-ups, planks, what if you just squatted the entire time you brushed your teeth? If you don't have time, you can add it into what you're already doing and multitask. And like I said, even most bang for your buck, what if you just did it 2 to 3 times a week? Short, focused sessions. They do work. You just have to start somewhere and commit. I feel like people make the most gains when they track their progress. So let's say you start with that 5-pound dumbbell and you can only do 10 reps, but then in 2 weeks, you're now up to 15 reps. Then you go to the 7.5-pound dumbbell. And then you can, once you get past that 10 rep range again, then it's time to move on. You have to progressively overload in order to make changes in the body if that's what you're looking for. If you're just trying to maintain, you don't need to do that. But potentially with age, you do, though, as you lose more muscle mass. So you have to know where you are in your life cycle to know how to tailor your workouts as well. The other thing that I really like to tell my patients if they're trying to make these kind of changes is if you actually take pictures to track your progress, put a bathing suit on and take the picture. Nobody has to see it except you. And you need to see where your progress is. And you'll be surprised and almost shocked to see some of the differences you can make over time just by strength training. You can lose inches if that's what you're trying to do. But again, it's more about, can you get up off the floor with your grandkids in 30 years? That's why I lift weights. I had kids after the age of 40. I need to keep up with them now. So I have toddlers in my mid-40s, and I played Division I basketball in my former life. I'm pretty beat up, and so I continue to strength train because I overused my joints, and I really wanna be as pain-free as possible.
So you were saying that because you want to be pain-free at your age, you want to preserve your mobility to be able to now take care of your toddlers, but then also take care of your grandkids. And I think that's important. And for those women that are thinking, I don't have kids and I'm not going to have grandkids, if you have a dog and you're planning on having a puppy at age 60, you also have to keep up with them. Think really about how you want to age. Do you want to age in a nursing home and be bedridden and be ridden to the couch every day? Maybe you're okay with that. But if you're not okay with that and you want a different type of lifestyle and quality of lifestyle as you age, then this is something that is very important for you to incorporate. I want to ask one last question as we come to the end and the conclusion. And that is, so sometimes there are people that have a lot of pain, inflammation. Their body habitus also might be a little bit larger. There might be certain conditions. And one of the things that I do recommend for them is that they start inside the water, inside the pool. And the reason being, because also depending on the temperature of the water, that by itself can help reduce pain and the inflammation, the impact, the gravity, not as something that they're going to do the rest of their life. But I also find that for certain patients, that can be also a very good way to get started. What are
Absolutely.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, aquatic therapy is something I do prescribe for my patients that I know they're not going to tolerate land-based to start. They're just not gonna tolerate it. Their knees hurt, their back hurts, they're, again, slightly overweight, and there's extra pressure on their joints already. And so when you start them in the water, there's ways you can get the appropriate amount of resistance and exercise. Even though water reduces gravity by about 70 plus percent when you're submerged to your neck, there's ways and modalities that can be implemented by these aquatic physical therapists to start to help get the ball rolling. There's flotation devices that provide resistance. There's bands that can be used under the water, and the water itself provides a bit of resistance. And so, again, I completely agree. Aquatic therapy is a great place to start if you don't think you can tolerate anything on land to begin with.
Yes. And I think that's better than doing nothing.
100%.
Yes. So start somewhere rather than nothing. So as we come to the close, two questions. So one, any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you want to share with our audience? And then two, how can people find you if they want to work with you? Any final thoughts or words of wisdom? And then how can people find you?
Final thoughts. So I would say one final thought in conclusion, movement is medicine. It's the most important. Move. Do not just sit on the couch. Resistance training is the best prescription for longevity, confidence, and resilience. So start today no matter where you are in your journey. It's so important. It's essential for every stage of every woman's life. You don't need hours. 30 minutes 3 times a week is enough to start. Prevents pain, protects joints, improves metabolic health. It's never too late to start. You can find me, Dr. Suzanne Manzi, at Performance Pain in Houston, Texas. I have 3 locations, www.performancepain.com. I'm in Central Houston in Greenway Plaza. I have an office in League City and an office in Baytown.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for being here. And for all of our listeners, I'll put this information in the show notes. Thank you for listening. And if this was helpful and you know of either a family member or a friend that just needs to listen to this conversation, go ahead, click that share button and send them the link to this episode. Until next time, bye.